What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another edition, another installment, another episode. Yes, sir, of the Black Men Win podcast with your boy Ty the Pie Guy. We are in season 2, man. I'm so excited to get this ball rolling with season 2. And I told y'all we got some new interviews coming, and we have a great. I don't even know how many greats I need to say about this man, because he's been doing a lot. I believe just by watching him, right? I'm not and studying him, I believe he's more of a behind the scenes worker, even though he's really in the front lines. I think those behind the scenes, the work that he puts in behind the scenes doesn't get enough credit. So I appreciate his I believe it was your manager reaching out to me and really putting me on game about you. But going into our first question, I want to let you gas the people up and let them know who you are and everything like that. Now, listen, I was about to say your name. I'm glad I caught myself. This is not a humble moment now. I want you to gas yourself, okay? Yeah. Let the people know what you do. You know what I'm saying? Let them know, because you a boss in these streets. So let them know who you are, my brother.
Word. My name is Martin Henson. Pronouns he, him. I'm the founder and executive director of BMEN Foundation. Really out here to create positive, lasting impact for Black men. We're an organization that supports Black men around issues specific to Black men. Creating healthy outcomes and just better quality of life for brothers. So that's what I'm on. I'm really out here. Like
you really
said. Really out here.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said you gotta be. You gotta be, man.
Listen, bro. I just recently just followed you and just seeing who is following you, and I'm always a big thing when it comes to social media. I'm always a big contributor in understanding that the people that you follow, even on social media, give off, positive and negative energy. And so when I seen your Instagram and your Twitter and people that follow you, very, very tight knit, a very small but very intelligent group of people, and that's what I liked about you. And then the fact that, first of all, you're a Black man. That's number one.
Shout out to Black men.
Shout out to Black men. First of all, you know what I'm saying? If we can't understand that we're already winning,
right,
as Black men, then I don't know what it is. So that's number one. Number two, I've always wanted to see how Black men of different in different industries, how they move and everything. And you in particular was very interesting. I loved how your articulation of things, the way you convey a message, right? I've seen a lot of Black men come in that space and try to do what you do unauthentically, if we can go there. Right? Yeah, I'll take it there. Unauthentically. And watching you in some of your speeches, I wish, and this is being serious, I went to a PWI, so I wish that we would have gotten you at Grand Valley, right, at some point during my even my master's program, right? I just graduated with my master's in 2020. So I wish that during my master's time, we would have gotten you in some type of space there, because I think the way you articulate and the way you convey messages and the way you come off is very it's very authentic in a very genuine way and very forthcoming, and it attracts you. You understand what I'm saying? And it's not a lot of people, I know for me personally, that can't do that. Right. And understanding that it's genuine. So I just wanted to give you your flowers and say, brother, keep continuing to do what you do. We really appreciate you doing what you do in the community. I want to know more about BMEN. Can you explain more about that?
Yeah,
Before
yeah.
you get into it?
First of all, shout out to your master's program.
Hey man, thank you.
Another Black man in higher education, or having completed a higher education. So we need
Appreciate it.
that. And giving Black men their flowers while they're here.
Yes, sir.
Which is a big connects to BMEN in a variety of ways. But BMEN really, if I had to go back to where the seed was planted, man, you know, being young, when I was around 12, I lost my dad. Dad was killed.
Wow.
And
so sorry to hear that.
I appreciate you. And when that happened, man, I was surrounded by just Black men, family, other community members too, but specifically Black men who really let me lose my humanity, and they was able to see me. And I was like, how do I get that to other brothers? That's the seed, right? And you grow up and you get that. You come from communities that make sure that you're not lost. You don't get caught up in the cycle of revenge and get back that can happen.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So when I got older, there was various ways that I engaged it and tried. And there's brothers that I came across in my life. One of the guys who founded it with me, Kahar Charles, died by suicide, lost another friend.
Wow.
Darrell mixed by health problems, another friend by suicide, Pascal Walker. So all of these people, my dad, Ricky Henson, they come with me as I think about what are some things that can hold men close and keep us together.
Right.
And BMEN Foundation sparked up when Me Too came around. I'm like, how do we think about all of this stuff as it relates to Black men?
Right.
And then I was like, man, we actually need a lot of support. And so
Absolutely.
I was like, let's expand it out so we can hold brothers close and we can make sure we're not losing them unnecessarily, and we can give them better outcomes in life. Because there's a lot going on systemically for Black men.
Talk about it. Yes.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, how do you, because I know you're not over this, but how did you handle the death of your father at such a young age? Because honestly, when you said 12, it triggered me, because I lost my dad at 11. So and I'm, it has gotten easier for sure, but it's still something that you still deal with. So how did you deal with it in that moment, and how do you continue to deal with it? Because that's a big loss, especially for I don't think a lot of people understand losing your father in any capacity, whether you didn't know him and you hated him or whatever, or you were very close to him, or somewhere in the middle. Especially at a young age, especially in those preteen years where it's kind of crucial, very crucial for a father to be in his son's life, especially in that time.
Yeah.
How did you deal with it at that moment, and how do you continue to deal with it now? Man,
when that happened, you've been that young.
Yeah.
Something happens when somebody is taken from you.
Yes.
It changes you. And it's hard to explain to folks that really haven't had that happen in their world or in their community. And you kind of realize that as a young kid. So I was changed completely. My whole way of being shifted, because you realize that, hey, this at any moment, life can be gone, and it's that short and it's that precious. And I think I became an observer and just watching people.
Wow.
And people observe me and what they can gain and glean from me. And because at the time after it happened, I was like, my way of coping with it was like, I'm not gonna let nobody read me so they won't take me the way they took my dad. Maybe they call him slipping. I didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And that was really a process, man. It was hard, because you really don't know how it's impacting you.
Yeah.
And I was grateful again to see BMEN with all these men that were surrounding me. So I didn't get lost in all of the ways you can get lost after you lose someone. One of the ways is trying to get retribution, trying to get it back.
Absolutely.
I kind of sunk into myself, and I feel like I had just started to become the person I would have became had that not happened maybe a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of change that happened. So on another hand, I think grief can be complex. I think BMEN in a lot of ways is me celebrating the men that I lost. It's also me grieving them. That
Absolutely.
I'm very aware that I've lost them. I'm very aware of the ways that they've been lost. And in the way that I think about how men, Black men specifically, have an unmet need as it relates to PTSD, or I want to say somewhere between 50% to 70% of brothers are not getting services around that.
Right.
And if you look at how many of us, about 48 million Black folks, Black men, half of that.
Mhm.
You understand what I'm saying? So like, if all of those brothers are, by way of the systemic barriers that we're existing in, having to deal with that, there's somebody out there like me. And like in my process of moving through my grief, and finding power and celebrating life, BMEN is one of the ways that I do it. So I don't think it ever really ends. I think it's beauty in being a father, have a daughter.
Congratulations, man.
I'm able to look in the mirror and see my dad and say things to her that my dad said, and I get to be that man, and I get to be that to other brothers who are going through different things by way of BMEN. So it's complex, man. It's complex.
Man, that's, you know what, it is. I could say I lost my dad at 11 due to a heart attack, and it was, I think you hit a lot of things on the nose. You know, I was like, I could compare it to a lot of the things. It made me an observer for real. It made me sink into a place that I can call early depression in a sense now, right? Because I didn't know what that place was, you know, 11, 12, 13. And, you know, my dad wasn't heavy in my life, right? He was, I was born in Florida, so he's a Floridian. My mom was a Michigander. She's from Detroit. And so it's just, you know, they divorced when I was around 2, and we moved back to Detroit, and I would go see him here and there every summer up until his passing. And it was a very, I love my dad to the toughest degree. You understand what I'm saying? Do we spend a lot of time together? No. But I had to come to terms with a lot of that, right? I think, to your point, it's very complex. And a lot, and again, to your other point, a lot of people, if you have not experienced something like this, losing your father, especially a Black dad, I'm sorry, it is something about just a Black man losing his father, especially early, that is I'm realizing very, you know, early or now that I understand where I was, how I was. So I thank you for that, because I was like, that's what it made me. And it is complex, you know, because sometimes I still deal with it. Sometimes I still cry about it, you know, and sometimes it's like, am I good with it? Or maybe I'm not good with it. And it's like, you come to terms with, it's okay to, I don't want to say never be good with it, but to really cope with it in healthy ways, if that makes sense.
I think somebody said, grief is love with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
Like, that's that feeling. Yes, definitely times that, you know, I still deal with it. Spring is hard.
Yeah.
You know, my daughter in 2 years is gonna be the age I was. That's gonna be a whole thing. You know, it comes in waves. It comes in waves.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, you're right. All right, let's get into the second question. So do you believe that as Black men, we support each other enough, in these 5 areas: spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, and financially?
I think, well, so it depends on how you talk about support.
Right.
Support relative to what the needs of the community are. I think we do what we can with what we have.
Okay.
And probably the ways that we're most likely to support each other is probably by way of contact and sharing activities. So we'll do something together. You watch a game with somebody, go play basketball with them, you go grill with them. So physical space is a way that that's one thing that we can do. Now, when it comes to emotionally, now think about it. The Emancipation Proclamation was in the 1860s, I want to say. We ain't really that far away from slavery and the generational traumas around connecting to each other and the bonds that we have, as well as access to mental health and emotional needs and language. That's something that there's an evolving understanding of how we connect to each other.
Right.
And it's sometimes hard because mainstream media doesn't reflect to us how we talk to us. So it doesn't really quite
Absolutely.
validate it.
That's
When we
facts.
say, hey man, you good? Yeah, I'm all right,
Right.
making it. You can tell by the tone, emotionally, where he's at. Now, in terms of what we need to do to meet that ground, I think we can always be better. But I'm careful and how I answer, because I don't want to put that on Black men to be responsible for the ways that the system has deprived us of opportunities and tools and strategies to better equip us for the future.
Right.
That relates to financial needs, that relates to educational needs, that relates to how we think and how we engage and how we see ourselves. So it can be hard. I think sometimes if you're looking at that in a kind of a pie chart, sometimes different portions of it can be bigger than the other ones.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of what I do as it relates to BMEN and what a lot of our program do and how we come together to think about it is how do we expand the notion of Black men as human and worthy and valuable and positive.
Absolutely.
In the ways that men show up and encourage brothers as it relates to all these things, because the media is always trying to give us negative interpretations of ourselves by way of our image and fueling capitalism and entertainment. But that's something that, that BMEN is very focused on, the image of Black men and Black men being seen as valuable and human,
Same here. That's one of the things we wanted to do here at Black Men Win, is to, no matter what type of Black man you are, we want to give you your flowers and let you know that you are valuable, whatever situation that you have been through. You understand what I'm saying? So, man, that was a great answer. That was great. I mean, I was like,
man, I'm serious about it. I think about it all the time. This is just, the organization came, later, but my mind has always been on how to make sure my brothers are good. How to keep make sure that, that's what I'm on.
But I think for me, you don't find a lot of Black men that's on your type of time. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think I think for Black men like us, it's who want to see our brothers do, better and want to help them. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, two sides of the coin. It's like, we want to see y'all win. Want to see you win. I want y'all to know that y'all win.
Right.
But there's a certain point where I have to let you push yourself. I can only hold your hand so long, right? And so, I know for me, and a friend had to tell me this on the Black Men Win podcast. He was like, "Yo, you can't sit here and try to hold every Black man hand and try to push him up the hill, bro. You gotta let him. You gotta let them work on their own." And I'm like, I know, man. I know it.
Man, but those moments are so important, because when you see brothers, like, so I go and hoop a lot.
Right.
I see brothers out there like just saying, "Man, you good? You're all right, man." I see you just saying something positive. When the last time somebody said something good about them?
Man,
you understand what I'm saying? When is the last time somebody seen them as worthy and valuable?
Exactly.
Now we have, by way of BMEN, we have different support groups that we do once a month, every second Sunday, 5 to 7. Check us out. But
where you guys located?
We do that digital. We was doing it in physically
virtual,
until COVID hit. We in Boston though.
Okay, cool. Oh, cool. Oh, so you're not far at all. Well, you're not. Yeah, you're not far at all. I'm in New York, so you're a train ride, so that's nothing.
That work is serious though, to let brothers know that they're seen and
absolutely
and value. It wasn't too long ago, I was watching Eyes on the Prize the other night, where brothers had to make sure they didn't look white folks in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Or brothers didn't have the same educational opportunities. And talking about desegregation, it wasn't that long ago that very clear racialized systemic barriers were considered to be the norm for America.
Absolutely.
And as we move into 2021, going into 2022, we still see Black men on the lower end of education, having a lot of health disparities and issues. When we think about incarceration and the outcomes related to that, being able to contribute towards your community and the economic advancement of it, because incarceration pulls people out
Right.
put some in there and strips your family of money as they have to use money to talk to you and send you commissary and whatever else is going on. So brothers need something. They need something. They need somebody to tell them that they're worth it. They need somebody to tell them that they can win. They need somebody to tell them that, man, how was your day? I remember when DMX died. I seen a brother, no BS. I seen him at the bank.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, hey man, how you doing, DMX? We had a whole conversation. So man, it was rough about it. Just saying I see you.
Yeah.
And I know everybody know that what's going on in your world and impact, but I see and I notice it. That's all I'm trying to do is just pass a little bit forward. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I kind of did the same thing when Kobe passed.
Yeah.
And it kind of, you can kind of say like when Black men feel when something tragic happens, and it doesn't have to be like we know that particular person or anything, but if we grew up watching, listening, to this particular Black man, where we're fans of them, like DMX, and Kobe, rest in peace. It is a certain type of level of pain, especially if you're an older, you're an old head or OG. It is a certain type of pain that a lot of people are not asking you. To your point, Martin, like, yo, am I good? Right. I'm really not good. Mm-hmm. Because I believe sometimes in their mind, they looking like not only are a lot of my icons passing away, mm-hmm. but a lot of my friends are mm-hmm. passing away. Like for my uncle right now, he's in the hospital. And I can just say over the last 5 years, a lot of his friends have passed away. His best mm-hmm. friend just passed away not even a year ago. Right. And it was just like, whoa, you realize time is moving. You're realizing like time is just flying by you really, really quick. And you're not mm-hmm. understanding like, oh, snap. Whoa. The people around me, the icons mm-hmm. that I looked up to are now, suddenly, taking their time up and going to heaven. Right. Where does that leave me? How do I feel? That is a certain type of loneliness that we don't ask older Black men, right? How are you doing? Are you okay? Right. What's going on? Right. Hope you have a good day. That's why I try to give every Black man I see a head nod. How you doing? What's good on the street? Like, listen, everybody ain't gonna give you a head nod. Everybody gonna sit here. Not everybody gonna sit here and give you a how you doing. But at least I'm giving them that courtesy, just to sit here and say, hope you're having a good day. Right. Right. Have a good day, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so I definitely agree with you because that's important. Yeah. Because they're getting older. Right? Yeah. They're getting older. They getting older.
I talked to my stepdad the other day. I had my daughter over there. We was just going back and forth talking about something, asking him what was it like when when stuff was going on and mm-hmm. And all of these things were happening in the world, and we didn't have all this mental health services. Mm-hmm. We didn't have rampant conversation. He was just like, you did what you could, older Black, and that's how they and
that's how they moved.
I respect it, and I'm like, man, what part of you had to die? What part of you wasn't nurtured because there wasn't anybody to see the vulnerabilities that you had in that time? Or
that emotional part, that emotional, probably that mental and that spiritual part. Because when we think about Black men, it's that physical and that financial that our OGs had to secure. Right. We had to secure that physicality and that finance, period. That emotional, that mental, and that spiritual. That's
what it was.
Right.
And I've had to really expand the way that I thought or how I think about who mm-hmm. I'm reaching out to. Because even with the Lil Nas X stuff, my Black friends who's gay, I'm like, yo, y'all good? Because Boosie out here wild and saying all types of stuff.
Oh yeah,
crazy. Are y'all good? Because I know it can make men feel like they unwanted, or Black trans man is related to the
absolutely.
Like, y'all good? Now some folks will say they don't explain. Some people say like that's not cool, and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to actually check on all the brothers, not just the ones that most resemble my experience.
Exactly.
So like, man, I'm still learning and growing, man. So I always try to name that,
And I respect that, bro. Like I read that about, I read up, of course I did my homework. And just watching you talk about that and really just being inclusive with all Black men.
Yeah.
All Black men. I said that's one of the things that we love to do here. We want to be inclusive. We had interviews, whether written, video, or audio, or otherwise, all Black men. Don't matter what Black you are. You understand what I'm saying? I don't care. Right. And it was a breath of fresh air for real to see another brother really take that step, because a lot of brothers ain't taking that step. Let's just be honest with that. Right. A lot of brothers ain't taking that step to unify all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean all of us. Heterosexual, gay, whatever. All of us. And so it is amazing to see you continue to do the work that you do in unifying all of us. So I think that goes into our third question. When we talk about generational curses in our community of Black men, do you think that hinders us from experiencing and realizing our true potential?
Well, the generational systemic racism and white supremacy.
Yes.
Right in the camera for that one. I want to be clear that that is one thing, and then generational curses are another.
Absolutely.
But I think the stigma behind the things that we're still dealing with, sometimes as sexual abuse, sometimes as incest in particular communities that are remnants of being enslaved, as we were as a people in America. I think we have to think about systemically what keeps us trapped into these same cycles of behavior.
Yes.
So incarceration is so significant as it relates to Black men, considering that we're only so much of the population, but we represent a high percentage of folks who are behind bars or under some type of institutional control.
Right.
Yes, generational curses you can kind of say from family to family. You know, I have a master's in counseling. We'll do genograms. We map out family patterns and all that. But systemically, the barriers that we face and the opportunities that we're neglected that's what I can name very tangibly. And I want to credit Black male studies and the scholars related to that. They're doing the work to outline what are the developmental and systemic barriers to Black men's advancement. So generational curses happen.
Yes.
Systemic racism, white supremacy, and barriers to getting help for mental health and physical health need, as well as how we think about things spiritually, also are at play. And I think we struggle with figuring out where one begins and the other one ends. And that's hard. It's hard because you might not know that, let's say your dad, let's say we were going to use a father figure, they didn't have special education in his school. So he was put on the path to incarceration early on, sent out of class because he couldn't understand some of the curriculum, did 5 to 10 years behind bars, came out, couldn't get a job, which affected his relationship with his kids that he might have had before then. They're angry with him because of the lack of socioeconomic standing.
Break it down, Martin. Break it down.
Not being able to be there, and the family dynamics is something that we don't talk about. All of those things happen. So we can say generational curses, but I'm always trying to expand, like, hey, there's some different houses that's in that neighborhood that we gotta check into that really affected how I think it is.
Listen, nobody has said it to me like that. Generational systems that are oppressing us first. Right. First. Let's say first.
Right.
Because to your point, we do have generational things that we as a community and like you said, family to family need to work on. But those are stemmed first from those generational systems. And I've never heard nobody explain it to me like that. And that made so much sense. It made so much sense because I'm like, yes, we have our issues. We have our things that we all need to work out. Right.
Right.
But to your point, that comes from a long line of trauma that our people have not had the time, the ability to heal from.
Right.
Now we can equate that to, we can debate that, any which way or where that goes. But I think the central part of it is we have not had time to heal, period.
Right.
And we could take that back to the time that our ancestors got here on a stolen land. But I'm just saying, right? We haven't had time for it to heal 400 plus years at this point.
Right.
And now we're getting to a point, maybe, right? We're getting to a point where a shift, and I want to ask you, do you see a shift happening? And this is kind of going into the fourth question, but do you see a shift happening in which, and maybe it could be a small shift, little shift, big shift. Do you see a shift happening in healing, genuine, authentic healing going on within our community? I wanted to ask you that specifically.
Well, it really depends on what people consider and understand healing to be. I think there's an expanded relationship to spirituality that is starting to exist outside of Christianity, where people are digging into how do we call in and think about our ancestors and relate as spiritually as it relates to healing systems. That's one part of it. I think we're really starting to see the data catch up with the outcomes that Black men are having to experience. Like I mentioned, Black male studies, and the ability to think of Black men as victims. That's something that we're starting to be able to think about.
Wait, I need you to say that one more time. I need you to say that one more time, because I don't think that our Black men listening and that everybody at home who aren't Black men listening heard you when you said that. I think people are now looking at Black men as what now?
As victims. As victims. People are they're beginning, and that's because a lot of the prominent scholars are pushing out the data in a way that is combating and pointing out the contradictions of predominant social thought around Black men, which positions us as dangerous or violent, either by way of our outright racism, or by way of our gender, or by way of our framing of masculinity. That's why sometimes I struggle with people's way of talking about masculinity and using toxic masculinity narratives, because it's typically racialized. I'm not saying the points they're making are wrong, but it's like that's how it plays out in American dialogue. But I think we're starting to own our narrative about what impacts us, what heals us. There's different coalitions that are coalescing around maleness, because there's a overlap between how people are thinking about men generally, and how people are thinking about Black men. And we're understanding that Black men face a gendered racism in a way that's different from the way that Black women experience it. And I think there's been a period of time where we had a hard time talking about it, because we thought that if we name that for Black men, and it takes away from Black women's experience. And I think that, again, as the data comes forward, people are learning to invest in healing in a variety of different ways, and understand, hey, we're having different outcomes, specifically because we're both Black and male. So how do we meet that? So that's BMEN is a big part of, like, hey, we're gonna have to meet some of these informally in the middle point, before you get to the actual therapeutic interventions. If you need a space to just come and process with other Black men to, seek support, and that's one of the places that you do it. But I think I see brothers. I remember, you might remember on Twitter when it's like, "You good, bro?" was twinning.
Yes, bro. Yeah,
that might have been.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
We had that moment, and we had when the docu-series about the Central Park Five came out.
Man,
there was a large conversation around Black men being a traumatic experience for Black men to watch it. I still haven't watched it. Like, there's some of these moments where it kind of boils to the top, and it's not this thing where Black men are strong or Black men look great or hypersexualized. It's like Black men being vulnerable. So it's just, I'm always trying to catch that wave I'm trying to start the wave and ride it whenever I can get it.
Right.
So it comes and goes and comes and goes, and I think we're seeing it kind of. We've kind of struggled post George Floyd to
I was
talk
just
about.
about to ask you about that. Like,
Yeah, we struggled about how to talk about Black men who are, let's say, victims of police brutality or witnessing police brutality or having these outcomes, because most people who are victims of police brutality don't die.
Exactly.
They go to prison.
Exactly.
They go to jail.
Right.
And we're just getting to the point where people are kind of just reacting because they, they're showing up, they didn't really quite know what to do, which I don't blame anybody for that. So now saying, hey, what are these outcomes that are happening here?
Right. Why is this happening?
Right.
I hear you, because I think and I hate to say it like this, but when that George Floyd thing happened, I don't know what it was, Martin, but I can't really, and I haven't really pinpointed it since his murder. But something about Black male inclusion, it spiked. Like, I've 27 years of living, especially being in PWI for 7 years, and really seeing how our Black people come together and how we split apart. I have never really seen Black men come together like that. It was a certain type of power that I was like, I felt really, really good for a moment. Now, it was a brief moment. It was very brief. It was like maybe for the time that he, got the trial and everything, but it was very brief. After that, everything just kind of went back to normal. Why do you think that is? Why do we have these brief spurts of, hey, let's come together for this one particular cause? And then once that's, I don't want to say over, but when I guess the media or society, or when things say, oh, this is now dying down, or when it's dying down, everybody goes to their respective, their respective corners. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because it was traumatic. And one of the things about, let's say, post-traumatic stress disorder,
right?
How you define it is a couple of ways. One of them is if you experience an event, if you witness an event, or you find out that somebody's close person to you has been impacted by an event. Right. Now you have all of these dudes who see video of George Floyd being killed, and just traumatic.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Like the number, what, 50 to 70% of Black men have an unmet need around trauma.
Yeah.
All of these brothers experience that and want to come together to sort of process how do you actually manage this. So one of the things I tell people when we talk about that, like things like George Floyd, or the overall kind of movement that happened with this, began with the death of Trayvon Martin. That was, we're in 2021 now. That was about
12, almost 10 years ago. It will be 10 years next year. I mean, next year. Yeah.
Almost. Yeah. And one of the things about it is, at least since I started paying attention to it for the last 5 or 6 years, I've seen an image of Black men dying, beaten, or narrative at least once a day. At least once a day.
Yep, me too.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not even looking for it. Never,
it's not. We're not even joking. This is not even no joke. This is serious.
Yeah, people were playing the video of somebody being killed by the police. And you cannot avoid it, because that has become a part of the entertainment of social media, as shock value stuff, or people wanting to show their concern and care, so they repost it, not knowing that it has a particular trigger for a lot of people. So a lot of Black men, you feel that, you react to it, you come to space to discuss it, because I think part of the way we compartmentalize our trauma is through just talking through something.
Yeah, facts.
Putting it through logic and intellectualizing, and not really talking about how it feels. So the contact alone that's the intervention for a lot of those brothers, is being around another brother.
Right.
How many brothers went to the barbershop when it happened, didn't even need a cut,
and just to go talk,
just there because you just want to be around somebody who understands. You know what I'm saying?
I can tell you my traumatic moment when it came to police killing an unarmed black man. Now, we've known this through history. I've learned this and everything like that, but seeing it went like being triggered. I was at work. I worked at a nice corporation back in Michigan. I just freshly got out of undergrad, and this was like 2016. And freshly got out of undergrad, got a job, and I remember completing my work for like that day, and half the day was gone. So I'm about to go on break. I go on my Facebook page on my computer, and that's when the Philando Castile live was going on Facebook. And when I'm in, and this is, mind y'all, this is 2016, so this is 5 years ago. A lot has changed in 5 years. I want that to be clear. Facebook regulations and the privacy regulations weren't nearly as harsh or as penalized as they quote unquote are now. But I just remember clicking on that and seeing that man, and I can vividly remember him getting shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like on, like it was live. It wasn't like, I had to, bring it back or rewind. No, saw that man get popped.
Right.
And it was just like, I had to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started crying. I called my mom. I said, Mom, I just seen a black man die in front of my face. When in my mind, because that's what I just seen live. Like, this can't be what on camera. And I didn't know how to take that day. Like, I worked the whole day, but that was the first one, and I had to really understand what needs to come from social media in a negative and positive light. Because to your point, especially in this new social media reality, those type of videos are now for entertainment purposes. Those get the views, those get the reactions, whether they're likes, prayer hands, or whatever. It's as you said, it is a trend over the last 5 or 6 years that black men dying or getting wrestled by the police are getting millions upon millions upon millions of views, retweets, reactions, and everything like this. So it's always a thing where I'm like, are we doing this for a trend? Are you doing this for a trend? And to your point, it's like, are we going backwards? And I mean backwards. So I think, again, that goes into our fourth question. What can we do better if we need to do better as black men, individually and collectively, to help improve our communities for the next generation? Because as we know, it's not about us. It's about the next. And we have to do our due diligence while we're here to make it even a millimeter of easier for the next generation. So what would you say to that?
One of them is just destigmatizing mental health. So one of the quick interventions that I do, and I tell people it works all the time, is that I just tell other brothers that I've been to therapy. It worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I can say, hey, black men need to go to therapy to support us. And they're like, oh, yeah, cool. But if I say, I've been to therapy,
right.
Like, oh,
it makes us think a little bit more.
Yeah. Oh, how was it? I had a conversation with my barber not too long ago, talking about it. Like, hey, I was like, yeah, it ain't that bad, man. I've been a few times, man. I go again if I need it. And so destigmatizing the need for support, because a lot of the idea of black, cool, you all right, you ain't worried about nothing, you can get through. Again, that's having its own racialized history, because if you seem to be too hot-headed in front of white people, it can get you killed. So we've had to learn a certain level of emotional regulation, compressing as it relates to our feelings, that, well, we might think we're compressing it, but we get back into our large environments, and sometimes it emanates outward, that pain, that hardship, that frustration. And the
Right.
other thing is just like the support group model that I use, I always encourage Black men to replicate that. Go out with your friends, get a couple of brothers. Hey, we're gonna go out and kick it here, because those informal networks actually serve as ways to boost this health-seeking behavior practices, where you tell a brother, "Hey, I went to do this. Hey, have you gotten your colon check? Have you done
Right.
this?" You know,
Right.
being able to hold networks of men who support each other, because men generally don't do that as much, and women have a lot of emotional supports from their friends because
Man,
getting engaged.
can you talk about it again?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
one of the biggest things we want to do here is know that you have emotional support. I love my Black women. Let me say that first of all. Black women have been supporting me forever. I come from a
Mhm,
Black woman. I was raised by a single Black woman, period.
mhm,
The one understanding that I know is that they always had emotional support. Now, it could have been with their girlfriends, could have been with their mothers, their aunties, whatever. But when Black
mhm,
women come together, and I've been to a whole lot of Black women congregations, okay?
mhm,
When
mhm,
Black women come together, bro, it is a party, and it is a different type of energy that I've always had a thing in my heart ever since I was little, to kind of bring that energy into the Black male space of congregation. Now we ain't got to sit here and kiki and ha ha all the time, you know what I'm
mhm,
saying? But the inclusion, hell, sometimes even the kiki and the hey, how you doing? It actually interacting with each other.
mhm,
The genuineness in the interaction, the authenticity. It was always just authentic, like real. And I'm like, yo, we need to bring that into the Black male space, because we so tight in the shoulders and shit. We don't never want to sit here and we so tight in the
yeah.
shoulders. We don't never want to sit here and loosen up. We don't never want to. It was a time where I think for me during my college run, especially my master's, I seen a lot of my friends who were connected to me loosen their shoulders up,
Mhm,
just period, right? Because I'm an optimistic individual. My shoulders are loose. I'm like, listen, I
mhm,
support everybody. I try to support everybody, whether that's in front of me or from a distance. I love you.
mhm,
I don't have no bad blood with you, especially with Black men.
mhm,
When it came to Black men showing emotion, I was one of those only few, if not the only one, to really be around Black women and have Black male friends, and other Black men are looking at me like, what is this man doing?
mhm.
Like, he's not getting none of these girls? No, I'm not, because I respect them enough to understand, like, that's not I don't need that. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to understand, right, how I
Mhm,
can get this energy of Black women
mhm.
over here.
Right.
How can I bring, and I'm not even saying all of it again, but how can I bring that inclusion over here and
Right.
be authentic?
Mhm,
Because you have different types of Black women, different types, light skin, dark skin, um, uh, African, Hispanic. Like, you have them in various shapes, sizes, colors, all that good stuff. And it's
mhm.
inclusion and it's genuine.
Right.
And I'm like, why can't we do that when our fucking shoulders are so goddamn tight and our faces are wrinkled up and shit like that? We want to hang with the same crew, the same people all the time. That's cool.
Mhm,
Right. But I know I had to learn really, like, yo, networking with other Black men is a great experience if you allow it to be.
yep,
If you
yep,
go in there with a set preconceived notion that, this shit ain't gonna be nothing, which I've done. So I'm speaking from experience,
right.
which I've done. It's not gonna work up in your favor. It's not,
Mhm,
because we're already in the mindset of competition. I had to understand why do I need to compete with my fellow brother? For what? For
right,
what?
right. And you know who do it well? Gay Black men.
Man,
Yo, They can hold community so well. And I think that this is why I want brothers to really work through the homophobia, whatever their fears are, because like I've seen brothers be so carefree and show so much
Yes.
love for each other.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, like, how do I get straight brothers to be on that? And without the, people on the no homo stuff, I'm like, bro, come on. The only thing that makes you gay is wanting to have sex with another man or be romantically
Exactly.
attracted to him. That's it. So like being able to, brothers need to work through that so they can actually get to better forms of camaraderie. I tell my homies, I love them all the time. And like it took a while to get there. I'm not gonna lie. I always tell my change process, it was a process. But like we got to get to be able where we can like hold each other and be supportive of each other without fear,
Man, like real talk. Because why gay black men literally sit here and can sit here and make all of us come together in some type of way. They know they got straight friends, they got gay, they got every type of person as a friend.
Right.
And I'm like, well, damn. Black men and black women and gay men, black gay men it's just a certain type of energy.
It is. And it is so, it's just the black men in community are so interesting because it's also brothers who want to lean into that, who feel like they got to be on the DL because they don't want this to download.
No, I'm telling you no. I'm telling you no. You don't have to. Exactly. You don't have to be on the down low. You ain't got to be gay to get into that energy. I've always said black men, heterosexual, cis black men need to step into their feminine energy.
Yes.
I've been saying that for a long time. Since I was 18 years old. And I didn't even know it for me.
Right. And once we like expand outside of these conventional trappings that the world has given us for a variety of reasons, everybody gets to be more free. I want everybody to feel as free as I feel every day when I wake up. So that's like gay man, trans man, straight black man, the black man who are on DL. Like I want y'all to feel like you got community in me. And
exactly.
Like, because we go through so much of the same stuff. So that's just the process that I'm seeing brothers get better and better at, and I'm just, waiting for us to kind of turn that corner.
Because a lot of black men, when we say a gay black man, or a black man that's on the DL, that's what they focus on first, right? They're not focusing on, hey, I'm a black man first. No. You're focusing on, oh shit, I'm on the DL or I'm a gay black man, so they're not going to accept me, brother. I've always said it don't matter whether you're a gangster or a gay man. They already don't matter what your status is. Okay. Because I mean, I think it's on your ID. I don't know if it is or not. But they're not looking at your status if you're heterosexual, if you're transgender, if you're gay. They're not looking at that. They look at this.
Right. And I think in intra-communally, so some of the brothers, let's say gay brothers, have had these negative interactions, and they want community. Because that's actually when I started doing BMEN stuff, that's who I got most of the energy from. I had to work to get straight brothers and still got to work to get them. But like,
you know what I'm saying?
They brothers feel like they can't have the same space because maybe harms and people being homophobic and some other stuff.
Absolutely.
But pulling them in. So when we do have time to deal with somebody who dealing with us like this, we all on the same page.
Right.
And everybody, I got your back, you got my back.
You got my back.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, that gets into our last question, man. What does black men win mean to you? When you hear that phrase, what does that mean to you? What do you think of when you hear that?
I mean, it means a couple things. I guess relevant to the work that I do by way of BMEN, it means that black men are having healthy outcomes. They're having a higher well-being, living full lives without the trappings and barriers of systemic pressures that divert our health and how we can live good, healthy lives in our neighborhood. And I think black men winning, for me, it really means that I wouldn't have to do the work that I did. If black men were really winning, I wouldn't have to have an organization dedicated to the support of black men, because it's already embedded in the system.
That's
And
it.
we've already been able to conquer and triumph these different things that we navigate on a daily basis. So and also I think if I'm going into the individual level, as Black men, winning is just us thinking of ourselves holistically, like you said, breaking it down to the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual, that we can see ourselves relative to what our needs are,
Absolutely.
without feeling threatened if we are at some deficit.
Right.
You know, because it can be hard to feel like you're not enough. It can be hard to have images of yourself that are never positive. But if we're doing all of those things, both of them, we're fully encompassed as a whole human being, making room for Black men of all walks of life, whether straight, gay, incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, sick, whatever, HIV positive, whatever you got going on, moving up to the higher level of community organization and engagement, to all of the systemic barriers being gone or removed, meaning that I don't have to do work like this. We really win, you know. But I'll take the other wins until
you
that.
Feel? Facts. We'll take the other wins as they come. Well, Martin, we want to thank you for coming on the show. I was really excited for this one. You feel me? I really wanted to get into your brain and pick your brain for real, and I'm glad I did. So I really want to thank you for coming on the show and giving us great words of wisdom and dropping some jewels for us, man. Thank you so much. You feel me?
I'm out here. I'm really out here.
Yeah, you out here, brother. We like I said, we wanted to give you your flowers too. So continue to do the great work that you do. Where can people follow you and get connected with you?
Word, at BMEN, you can, if you want to email me, it's Martin at BMEN Foundation, website bmenfoundation.org. We're at BMEN on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. Contact us, collaborate. You want to start a support group, we can help you do that. We really about Black men out here. So please, look us up and check us out.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, that is the episode. Please follow us on all platforms. You can follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We're everywhere. Of course, you can follow us on Instagram and on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at _BMW podcast. And you can follow us on Facebook at the Black Men Win podcast. All right. Please pick up some merch. You feel what I'm saying? Black Men Win merch right here for the sweaters and everything. Because, it's getting cold out here in these streets. And we can't have y'all just, coughing and getting sick, my brothers. So make sure y'all cop y'all some sweaters and some hoodies. And that is it. You feel what I'm saying? We will be back with another episode. And that is it. All right. I love y'all. Peace, love, and hair grease. Thank you again, Martin, for coming on the show.